While the Department of Government Efficiency was created to reduce government spending and says it has, multiple reports suggest that DOGE has overstated how much money it has actually saved or will save in the future. For example, last month, DOGE said it saved $6.4 billion by canceling contracts from the Department of Health and Human Services. CBS News determined the actual savings amounted to $165 million. The numbers are now being reviewed and examined by Politico in this brand new analysis that found many discrepancies. The article's author, Jessie Blaeser, joins me now from New York. Jessie, it's great to have you. Thanks for joining us.
Of course, it's great to be here.
Walk us through the way to think about what DOGE has represented about its savings and what can be accurately, transparently verified.
Yeah. It's a great question. First of all, something to know about the way DOGE posts their savings. They have a website, doge.gov, where they post terminations for contracts, grants, and leases, where they say, we've canceled these awards and we are saving X amount associated with each of those contracts, grants, and leases. Yeah, I see you've got the page up right there. So in each of those line items, they say, we've saved this many dollars. What we were able to do with this analysis is go to the receipts and the federal spending records and see how much money has actually been put back into the government's hand by canceling these contracts. And it's not anywhere close to what DOGE says it is.
And I read in your article that one way, and I hope this is helpful to the audience to think about this, is let's say you or I get a new credit card, and there's an available balance on that credit card of $20,000. And then a month later, without charging anything, we decide to cancel that credit card. We say to ourselves, hey, man, I just saved myself $20,000.
Exactly. Yes. No, 100%. I'm glad you brought that up. As one of the experts that I spoke with for this story put it in a metaphor, the way DOGE calculates savings is inherently flawed. And that's something that experts have called out from the moment that DOGE started posting receipts on this page. But essentially, the way they calculate it and the way they say they calculate it on their website is they take a contract ceiling, which is something that the government determines that at most for any given contract, this is the most amount we will ever spend for this particular award. But that ceiling isn't at all related to how much the government has actually committed to pay out. That would be the money that if you take out a credit card, you have your $20,000 credit card limit, but let's say you just spend $1,000. That's the money that matters when it comes to savings, and yet DOGE for their baseline is using the equivalent of that credit card limit to say, okay, you know, we had a $20,000 award and we canceled it and we had only spent $1,000 on that award. We've just saved $19,000. And that's the way that that math works, which is why the discrepancy is as large as it is.
Now, clearly, DOGE has induced some people to retire early, leave their federal workforce, has cut back things, has saved some money. It's not as if it hasn't saved any money. And taxpayers have this sort of curiosity about that in general. They also have been It's been suggested by the president, well, there might be a dividend check based on how much savings occurs. So how much they actually do in reality save matters.
Yeah, totally. And there's lots of different things kind of coming into play there in terms of how much they are totally saving. This particular analysis was only looking at a slice of what DOGE's actions are, but we only have transparency into so much that they've done. So we took the biggest chunk that we could, which was looking at contracts. But you're right that in reality, there have been employment cutbacks, they've cut regulations, and there's savings associated, at least according to DOGE, with each of those actions. According to their website as of today, they say they have saved $202 billion across the entire federal government. For perspective, out of the claim savings that we looked at for this story, that was only $33 billion of the 202 that they're claiming. So, of course, the savings that we looked at are far from what they have said that it is, but there's plenty of other actions to look into. But I think when it comes to looking at taxpayers and how much they're actually receiving back, even the savings that we found from DOGE's activity just from canceling contracts amounted to only $1.4 billion compared to the $33 billion that they've claimed, which is less than 5%. So again, a long way off. But that $1.4 billion from canceling contracts, that money doesn't automatically go back into the pockets of taxpayers. It doesn't reduce the deficit. All it does is it goes back to agencies to use differently. They're required to spend that money as it's been appropriated by Congress. They can't just not spend it without a formal intervention from Congress via rescissions or something similar. So that money doesn't save taxpayers anything, even though that's how DOGE frames it. It just can be used differently by the agency. So when it comes to savings and how much that actually impacts a taxpayer, It really depends on what you are defining as savings, what you're defining as spending. And at least for contracts, canceling those does not necessarily make a direct impact on the taxpayer at all, at least not without additional effort from Congress or from the president.
Jessie, stay on this story. I know you will. And when you have more reporting, we'll come back and talk to you. I appreciate it very much.
That sounds great. Thank you so much.